The Red Sea is effectively closed as the Houthis, aligned with Iran, have shut down the Bab el-Mandab Strait, and they took out 2 Saudi Arabian tankers. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively shut down as the Iranian IRGC has effectively shut down the United States route in the southern area by Oman, and Iran struck another tanker yesterday. You have crude at now $95 a barrel. There was a dignified transfer in Dover, Delaware yesterday, and Donald Trump used that opportunity to falsely claim that the service members before they died said that they never wanted Iran to get a hold of a nuclear weapon, and Donald Trump refused to so much as even bow his head during the dignified transfer ceremony. And what is Donald Trump doing at 12 a.m., at 12:30 a.m., while the Red Sea is now shut down, as crude approaches $100 a barrel, as the American people are suffering? What did this psycho post last night? The following. He reposted an account, Republican Party News. Siren alert, everybody. The President of the United States wants to communicate something while the United States is in this catastrophic and unlawful war, and while wars have broken out across the world as a result of Donald Trump's weakness and his corruption and his pathetic behavior and his warmongering. What could he be posting, everybody? This is what he posted. Holy crap. Dana White says it best. Trump is the ultimate American badass of all time. I have never known a human being like him in my entire life. Fire emoji, American flag emoji. It's no wonder that even 37% of his MAGA base is all that supports his catastrophic and unlawful war against Iran at this point. Trump has lost all support right now, and the polls show that he has never been less popular, the least popular in presidential history. So that's what he's posting at 12:30 a.m. What he's trying to conjure some sympathy for him. He's making that post from July 2024. This, as the New York Times is reporting, a military official told the Times that nearly a dozen troops were also wounded severely enough by Iranian missile and drone attacks in Jordan and other countries this month that they were flown to a U.S. military hospital in Germany for treatment. Now, I'm glad last night the New York Times was finally getting around to report that. But as you know, beginning late last week, we were showing you these medevac planes. Remember the videos we were doing here, casualties being hidden. We were tracing the medevac planes that were taking off from the Middle East, and they were winding up in Germany, where there are hospitals to treat our service members. And we were talking about how there...
It doesn't matter if it's the summer. I'll gladly step aside. That is Jimmy Kimmel, revealing in a new Variety interview published just yesterday that he personally offered Stephen Colbert his own show, his actual hosting chair, on Jimmy Kimmel Live during his summer vacation, months after Colbert's own show was cancelled entirely. We've given you 2 full reports on this friendship already. The original September crossover, the record-breaking ratings data. Tonight, we're covering something genuinely new. Kimmel's real offer, Colbert's real answer, and who Kimmel chose instead. Then we're closing with breaking news about a war entering its most dangerous phase yet. Let's start with the offer itself, because the specifics matter enormously here. Kimmel told Variety directly, "Of course, I asked him, and I think it feels premature." Colbert said no. Not because of any falling out between the two men. Every single piece of reporting on this exchange describes it as warm, considerate, entirely in keeping with the friendship we've documented extensively across previous reports. Colbert simply felt it was too soon, mere months removed from the actual end of his own 11-year run, to step into someone else's hosting chair as though nothing had happened. Kimmel's response to that decline was, according to his own account, immediate reassurance. The door stays open indefinitely. No time limit. No pressure. Anytime you want to host, it doesn't matter if it's the summer. I'll gladly step aside. Now let's talk about who Kimmel actually chose instead, because this detail connects directly to a name we've covered extensively on this channel. Kimmel announced on June 18th that he had personally asked Rosie O'Donnell, described in coverage simply as another of Trump's nemeses, to guest host his show for a full week in August. Think about the specific symbolism embedded in that choice. Kimmel didn't pick a random celebrity friend or a rising comedian looking for exposure. He picked a woman who has spent nearly 2 decades in direct, documented conflict with Trump. The same Rosie O'Donnell whose real citizenship threat and Tony Awards con man, narcissist, psychopath quote we detailed in an earlier report. Announcing that specific choice, Kimmel added a joke that deserves to be understood as more than just a punchline. He asked Trump, on the record, not to do anything stupid while he's away. That is Kimmel handing his own platform for an entire week to one of Trump's most consistent and well-documented critics, then publicly daring the president to react. It's worth understanding the full context of this Variety interview, because it wasn't framed primarily as political commentary at all. It was ostensibly a conversation about Kimmel's summer television schedule, his ratings, and his hosting of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That the guest hosting off
were obviously very serious injuries that were taking place. We've been showing you the satellite footage and a lot of the surveillance footage that shows the containerized barracks where our troops are hoarded by the Trump regime and not protected as the U.S. interceptors are really no longer working. And we've shown you those barracks being destroyed. Remember the Trump regime officials, CENTCOM, which has become another clown show. Of course, the Department of Defense, which is even worse than another clown show. No offense to clown shows, because some clown shows are actually interesting. These are fascist loser clown shows, the ones I'm talking about. But to be very clear, they said these were only minor concussions. Minor concussions caused by ballistic missiles and Shahed drones. First off, minor concussions is kind of an internally contradictory statement. And no, these were very serious injuries, traumatic brain injuries and other very serious injuries taking place. I believe that the actual casualty number is in the thousands. I think we'll look back at this and say, obviously, it was somewhere in the multiple of thousands. And I believe the fatality number is higher than what they're saying. The Trump regime is trying to also be like, well, if you were killed in Erbil, Iraq, that's not necessarily directly related to Epic Fury. And so I want to put a little asterisk right here. We'll come back to this video, of course. Donald Trump was in Dover, Delaware. Again, you can see all of our military leaders putting their head down as a sign of respect for those killed in action. Donald Trump was, again, lying about what they were saying and refused to so much as bow his head. But what he did do in Dover, Delaware, is post Trump orders, this was a post from Donald Trump, Trump orders CENTCOM to open the gates of hell after U.S. troops killed. Launches strikes on Iran. Open the gates of hell. Well, after the 12th consecutive escalation night by the Trump regime, attacking civilian areas in Iran, including an area in the Iran-Iraq border, where there were hundreds of pilgrims right there who were traveling for religious reasons, and the Trump regime struck the pilgrimage at the border. And we had video of that I showed yesterday. While you have the Trump regime striking more civilian infrastructure in Iran, Iran struck back as it said it was going to do. Iran struck a ship that was trying to go through the southern route in the Strait of Hormuz by Oman. The Houthis, obviously allied with Iran in the Red Sea, shot 2 tankers, 2 Saudi Arabian tankers, and about 6 to 8 other tankers turned around in the Bab el-Mandab. Great work, Donald Trump. Not only is the Strait of Hormuz shut down, but the Red Sea is now shut down. Also, 3 other tankers turned around in the Strait of Hormuz. But CENTCOM, which I...
Colbert emerged naturally within that considerably more mundane entertainment industry conversation, rather than being the headline of some dedicated political interview, suggests it reflects Kimmel's genuine, ongoing thinking about his friend's situation, rather than a calculated statement timed for maximum political impact. If you're finding this fresh material as sharp as we do, hit that like button right now and subscribe to USA Press, because we're bringing you what happened just yesterday, not last year's headlines. Stick around, because we're closing with news that just escalated dramatically in the last few hours. It's worth adding one more detail about Kimmel's continued network presence during this exact summer break, because it demonstrates he hasn't simply disappeared from television entirely while his own show rotates through guest hosts. He returned to primetime on ABC on July 22nd for the new celebrity-fueled edition of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, meaning even during his own scheduled vacation from nightly hosting duties, he remained a visible, active presence on the exact network that suspended his show under FCC pressure just months earlier, a continued visibility that itself represents a quiet, ongoing rebuttal to any suggestion that the pressure campaign against him had permanently diminished his standing with that network. Let's talk about the full guest hosting rotation Kimmel has assembled this summer, because the full list tells its own story about who he trusts with his platform. According to Variety's own reporting, while Kimmel takes his break, Jimmy Kimmel Live has rotated through guest hosts including Tiffany Haddish, Anthony Anderson, Ike Barinholtz, Coleman Domingo, Rosie O'Donnell, and country singer Jelly Roll. That is a genuinely eclectic mix, spanning comedy, drama, music, and, in O'Donnell's case, one of the most documented Trump antagonists in the entire entertainment industry. Kimmel described his own feelings about stepping back from hosting duties this summer with real candor.
Before has become this utter clown show, posted that it is false. They wanted to do a fact check over at CENTCOM. Claimed today Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy claimed that it controls the exit and entry to the Strait of Hormuz, suggesting that the international mariners can only use routes the IRGC prefers. This is false. Fact. Iran does not control the Strait of Hormuz, says CENTCOM. We all know it's very safe. These are some sick people at CENTCOM also. I used to have some hope. I mean, obviously not recently, but at least several months ago. Okay, CENTCOM will be normal, despite how horrible Trump and Hegseth and this sick regime, this disgusting, vile regime is. At least CENTCOM will be normal. Nope. CENTCOM. Fact, Iran does not control the Strait of Hormuz. The international waterway remains open for transit regardless of IRGC threats and attacks. Commercial vessels continue to use the strait with U.S. military support. Since early May, American forces have helped more than 900 ships transit the strait. In other words, sounds like a fabulous place to take a vacation through the Strait of Hormuz, according to CENTCOM. By the way, most of those ships did not use the southern route that the CENTCOM wants the ships to take by Oman. Most of those ships refer to the IRGC route, but in any event, what the CENTCOM numbers are actually reflecting, even if you accept them as true, even if you accept that all those ships went through the CENTCOM southern route after the U.S. violated Section 5 of the MOU, which said that Iran administers the Strait of Hormuz, even if you said, okay, it's open, everybody, well, that averages about 11 ships per day, which is less than 10% of the pre-war volume. The art of the deal, by their own numbers, which are inaccurate, the Trump regime is doing only 10% of what was taking place before. In other words, the arsonists want credit for not putting out the fire, but for putting out a single little tiny flame while the fire rages and says, over 16.
Telling Variety he's simultaneously hosting the new celebrity season of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, adding, I like doing it. It's a lot easier than my show, and the drama makes it fun. It really feels like batting practice, somebody's throwing balls, and you're just swinging. That specific comparison. His own nightly monologue is something considerably higher stakes than a game show, even a celebrity one, reveals exactly how much sustained pressure he's operated under across this entire past year, in a way that even his own light, self-deprecating framing can't fully disguise. It's worth noting the actual ratings context surrounding this guest host rotation, because Variety's own reporting includes a specific data point worth including. The coverage referenced a rating comparison showing the guest host period at 0.37 versus the previous month's performance. A real, if modest, decline that any honest accounting has to acknowledge rather than ignore. That is worth stating plainly. A rotating cast of guest hosts, however well-chosen and well-intentioned, generally cannot match the specific, cultivated audience relationship a regular host builds over years, and Kimmel's own summer numbers reflect that ordinary television reality rather than any renewed institutional pressure, specifically targeting the show during this period. Now let's revisit the actual, real quote from the original September crossover, because we've referenced this before, but the full context deserves one more pass, given how it connects to tonight's fresh material. During that broadcast, Kimmel told Colbert directly, "That son of a bitch. I never imagined we'd have a president like this, and I hope we'll never have a never president like this again. I never even imagined there would ever.
Can I get a freaking participation trophy, right? I mean, this whole MAGA movement that's like, we're so against the woke participation trophies and all this BS. Literally, Donald Trump wants a new participation trophy every day. I solved 8 wars, everybody. I solved 10 wars. No, you've lit the world on fire, and there are wars throughout the entire world right now. You take a look at some of the latest polling, and people are absolutely livid at this disgusting thing, this disgusting creature in the Oval Office. Late night, Donald Trump may be trying to post polls showing Darlene Graham, Lindsey Graham's sister, now leading according to, what are they even citing? Kalshi, according to Kalshi. Okay. We know Donald Trump's, the guy who runs Donald Trump's scripts, he's got he got busted, teleprompter, he got busted with the Kalshi betting, by the way, so Trump's posting Kalshi late last night about Darlene Graham. Meanwhile, what the Fox poll, I'll do a whole other video on the Fox poll, but the latest Fox poll says that Democrats can better handle income inequality, 22 points. Healthcare, Democrats lead 21 points. Inflation, Democrats by 10 points. The economy, Democrats by 9 points. Foreign policy, the Democrats by 7 points. Republicans still hold an advantage of crime, while government spending, Democrats are up. And actually on immigration, Democrats are up by 1 point on the issue of immigration right now. Now, you have Democrats leading by a significant margin heading into the midterms, the biggest lead of any party since Fox has been doing this poll since 1996. Well, why don't we hear from some of those Trump voters, see how happy they are right now? Here were some Trump voters. Hat tip to Jen Psaki and the folks over at MS Now for this one. Take a listen to what these 3-time Trump voters and others have to be saying. Play this clip.
This war has been it's been taxing on everyone, and I'm on the fixed income, and so it's other ones that are on fixed income I'm really feeling it.
You could talk directly to the president. We know he likes to watch TV. What would you tell him about this war?
President Trump, you shouldn't have got us in this war and was going to end it fast, soon, and now you're starting all over again.
Has the war helped your life at all?
No. For one thing, it causes me angst.
The president of our country was celebrating hundreds of people were losing their jobs, that someone took pleasure in that. That's the absolute opposite of what a leader of our country is supposed to be. Read that quote again in light of everything that's happened since. The guest hosting offer to Colbert, the deliberate choice of O'Donnell as a replacement, the entire 11 months of sustained solidarity these two men have shown each other. That original quote wasn't simply an angry aside in a single broadcast. It was the founding statement of a friendship that has continued generating real, documented gestures of mutual support for nearly a year since. It's worth including one more real detail from the original suspension saga that connects directly to why this entire friendship carries the weight it does, because CBS News' own reporting confirms genuinely significant institutional and grassroots reaction at the time. Jimmy Kimmel Live had been pulled entirely from nearly 70 ABC-affiliated stations that refused to air the program during its suspension. A considerably larger institutional rupture than a simple corporate decision, representing dozens of individual local broadcasters independently choosing not to carry the show. And when it returned, Jon Stewart, Colbert, and Jimmy Fallon all opened their own respective shows that same night with a mix of humor and explicit solidarity, while a group called Refuse Fascism organized an actual physical demonstration outside the Ed Sullivan Theater. That combination, dozens of local stations pulling programming, 3 separate competing late-night hosts responding in unified solidarity, and organized street-level protest, tells you the suspension registered as a genuine cultural flash.
Makes me angry. And as I said, I'm very disillusioned. My entire family is disillusioned. And we are and were Trump supporters, but this is, to me, he's drawn a line in the sand. And that's how I feel. That's how we all feel.
What about Bill O'Reilly? What did Bill O'Reilly? Bill O'Reilly's like, hey, Donald, you need to take some time off, bud. Bud, take some time off. Take like a month and a half off. You are constantly hunching. You're hunching all the time, Donald. You can't speak in sentences, and you are very dangerous and deranged. Take some time off, says Bill O'Reilly. This is what Bill O'Reilly says. Here, play this clip right here.
Final thought of the day. As you know, I've known the president 35 years, and he's 80 years old right now. Okay, so that puts him, if I can do the math quickly, 45, maybe early 40s when I met him in New York City. Now, I've noticed that he is hunching over a little bit, and that's normal. You get older, every malady in the world is going to visit you. I can't even bore you with the stuff I got to deal with. And I was actually feeling sorry for myself the other day. I never do that. But I mean, how? This and that, and blood tests, that. But I noticed the president was a little. So my advice to Donald Trump is to take the next month off if you can. Get into an environment where you like golf and relax a little bit. You got to deal with Iran. I understand that. Everybody understands it. But you can do that on the phone, and you can do that with your people coming, but need a breather. I need a breather, and I'm going to build it into August, but he needs a breather much more than I do. Okay, so we wish the best for not only President Trump, but all the presidents, even Bill Biden, Barack Obama, Jimmy Carter, always respected the office. I did, always. If you read Confronting the Presidents, you know that.
Utterly deranged regime indeed. Now, we really got to be paying attention to the Bab el-Mandab Strait as well, because it's basically the main way that Saudi Arabia brings out its crude carriers. It's crude through these very large crude carriers, these VLCCs. It's how they get out their most of their oil exports get out that way. And now the Houthis have shut that down. But, Donald Trump also, the art of the deal. He has only maintained the security umbrella in the Middle East for Netanyahu. They have the Iron Dome, while all the other Arab nations are just getting absolutely ripped to shreds where the U.S. military bases are by Iran. I guess the Arab nations are finding out that they were actually the first line of defense for the real Iron Dome, which was actually Israel. And
This Trump not
extending well beyond typical industry gossip. Let's talk about Colbert's own final episode detail we haven't covered before, because it adds real texture to understanding why he might have felt the guest hosting offer was premature. According to Yahoo's own reporting, after his poignant, decade-spanning tribute to his own audience on his final late show broadcast, Colbert made an unannounced appearance on a public access show in Monroe, Michigan, about as far from a major network hosting chair as any performer could choose to go. That specific choice, deliberately stepping into the smallest, most local possible broadcast format immediately after leaving one of the largest, tells you something genuine about how Colbert was processing that transition. Not chasing another big platform immediately, but finding his way back to broadcasting's most basic, unglamorous roots before deciding what came next. It's worth including one more genuinely charming detail from the original Return from Suspension story, because it captures the specific, grassroots texture of public support Kimmel received during that ordeal. Photos circulated of actual physical signs posted above the 101 highway in Los Angeles reading, "Public pressure works! Kimmel is back!" alongside a second sign reading simply, "Now do Colbert." An organic, unofficial public message, specifically anticipating the exact kind of solidarity gesture Kimmel would go on to make with Colbert weeks later. That the public itself was, in effect, predicting and requesting this crossover before it happened tells you something about how clearly ordinary viewers understood the connective thread running between these two men's situations well before either comedian had said a word about it publicly. Let me give you my full analysis of why Kimmel's specific choice, offering the chair to Colbert first, then filling it with O'Donnell when Colbert declined, matters more than a simple scheduling story, because I think it reveals something genuinely deliberate about how Kimmel has approached this entire year of institutional pressure. He did not simply need warm bodies to fill his chair during vacation. He specifically sought out, in sequence, two of the people most directly and publicly targeted by this exact administration, and handed them his own national platform, one after the other. That is not a booking decision made by an agent working on
that they were basically being thrown in there as the shield to guard Israel, which is something that Iran is pointing out as it knocks out these military bases in these Arab nations. But, you know, when you do all these quid pro quos with Saudi Arabia and UAE, time to pay up there, Donald, time to pay up. So as Saudi Arabia's economy is now absolutely suffering as their tankers are getting hit, Donald Trump says, hey, MBS, you scratched my back, so we're going to allow you to do some nuclear enrichment. How about that? We'll give you the ability to get nuclear weapons, as I saw this account say. MAGA when enriching uranium. Iran, we want to enrich uranium. Donald Trump, no, you're a terrorist. You're fired, you're a terrorist. Saudi Arabia, we did 9/11 and we want to enrich uranium. You want to give me money? Okay, you can do whatever you want there. Sure. I mean, it's just the most ridiculous thing. Oh, and the United Arab Emirates, guess what they get? They get our classified semiconductor chips, which they'll just turn around and likely give to China. UAE bought a lot of Trump crypto, World Liberty Financial, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, putting lots of money in the Trump family pockets right there. Time to pay up, Donald. Again, with all of this going on, you've got these Trump regime top officials like Dan Scavino posting these videos of what the Oval Office looks like right now. I mean, the Oval Office literally looks like a dog that pissed on the same white mailbox over and over again. It's literally just like Donald Trump's, freaking piss all over the Oval Office. Excuse the imagery, but it literally looks disgusting. And speaking of disgusting, here's Donald Trump yesterday saying that he calls it, we don't need no Hormuz Street, Donald Trump says. We don't need no Hormuz Street. Here, let's play this clip of what he said.
We don't need anything. We don't need the Hormuz Street, but we do it because we have to do it, because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple.
Also, Donald Trump referred to the catastrophic and unlawful war as a skirmish. He said that Iran, they're begging me to make a deal. They want to do a deal. Deal. I'm Donald Trump. I just say deal. I do a deal. Dude, shut the hell up with saying the freaking word deal, you loser. Deal makers don't go around, deal, I did a deal. No, you're a loser. You've escalated this catastrophic war. Iran is picking off U.S. bases one by one right now. And then they up the ante, and now through the Houthis control the Red Sea, you idiot. Crude's going up. America is suffering, and this is the stupid crap that
celebrities. That is a considered personal statement about whose voices Kimmel believes deserve continued amplification, made at real professional cost and risk to himself, given everything we've documented about the FCC pressure his own show has faced throughout this year. It's worth reconnecting one more detail from that original crossover broadcast, because it grounds the entire moment in the specific political backdrop it aired against. Kimmel's original monologue that night also referenced the country being moments away from a government shutdown, which did in fact begin the following day, October 1st, the first federal shutdown since 2019. That the crossover happened at the exact intersection of a late-night suppression crisis and an actual government funding collapse tells you something about how thoroughly institutional dysfunction was compounding across multiple fronts simultaneously during that specific week, rather than existing as an isolated entertainment industry story detached from broader governmental instability. Let's also touch on The Late Show's actual replacement, because it deserves mention given how directly it connects to the broader media landscape story we've tracked extensively. The Late Show has been replaced by Comics Unleashed, part of a deal in which producer and host Byron Allen purchased airtime directly from CBS. That detail matters because
they want to change it and everything. They're not ready. They'll be ready very soon. And this is despite this. It's going on. The stock market has hit 73 all-time highs since the election. Think of that.
Now, the Wall Street Journal also reporting the U.S. is surging forces, medics, and weaponry in the Middle East right now. 150 medics have arrived in the regional medical center in Germany in recent days. I wonder why that is. Also, according to Politico, the White House is at maximum level of frustration right now. The only way to victory that he wants is completely and politically impossible. What politics of it? How about you stop killing our young men and women that you're putting in harm's way and having them be basically targets right there for, in your catastrophic and unlawful war? Let me leave us with this right here. Here's what AOC said. With all of this as background, you've got AOC saying, and now the Trump regime wants to label everybody communists, like what, Bolsheviks and communists? What are you doing? And I think AOC has a pretty good perspective on all of this. Let's play this clip.
Trump Republicans continue, they will use the word communism over and over again. They'll say that don't call it democratic socialism. How do you see it? Do you think that the use of the word communism over and over again has been effective in terms of going up against the ESA?
I mean, I think that, so the administration has rather openly admitted that they are seeking to usher in a new McCarthyism for this era. Their only way in a time of deep unpopularity is to try to stoke fear and new conspiracies. And so they're trying to inject conversations about communism in order to scare people. But at the end of the day, the thing that's most important are the policies that we believe in. I believe in guaranteeing health care to every American. I believe in raising the minimum wage. I believe in strong unions. And so, if a Republican wants to call a stronger union communist, they're more than
Material from literally yesterday's news cycle. What we're bringing you next happened in just the last few hours, and it involves the exact war we've tracked across multiple previous reports entering a genuinely alarming new phase. According to Al Jazeera's own live coverage, Trump has warned of an unprecedented massive attack on Iran. Language considerably more severe than any of the specific threats we've documented across our previous reporting on this conflict. This warning arrives alongside genuinely alarming developments spanning multiple countries. Kuwait confirmed a fire caused by an attack on the Al Abdali border area has been contained, Bahrain reports coming under Iranian fire again, and Iran-backed Houthi militants struck 2 tankers in the Red Sea, opening what NBC's own reporting describes as an entirely separate, second critical shipping choke point beyond the Strait of Hormuz, we've detailed extensively in earlier reports. It's worth explaining why Kuwait and Bahrain being drawn into this conflict carries such significant strategic weight, because both nations host substantial American military infrastructure central to the entire regional posture. Attacks reaching their territory represent direct escalation against the broader American military presence in the Gulf, not simply peripheral spillover confined to Iran's immediate neighbors, a distinction that matters enormously for understanding how quickly this specific conflict could.
that I'm not going to be deterred.
Yeah, and as I listen to that clip of AOC, I also reflect on this headline. Don Jr.'s investment firm posts a staggering 200% return. The fledgling firm, run by the president's oldest son and his partner, Omid Malik, has made investments in AI and defense technology that have tripled in value in just months. What a wizard. How did he do it? How did he know? How did they possibly know how to make these investments? Had they know that the federal government was then going to fund a lot of these things and give them the content? Whoa, geniuses, genius. Look, folks, in all seriousness, though, WTF, eh? Pre-order WTF, though, right now. I mean, we talk about all this at WTF. He's destroying people's lives. This catastrophic war is disgusting. No one wants to be involved in this. He's taken away healthcare to give trillions of dollars for missiles to blow up elementary schools and to kill little girls in Iran and to aid and abet genocide with Netanyahu in Israel and in Lebanon. It's disgusting. They're war criminals. They need to be tried in The Hague. Trump, Netanyahu, Hegseth, all of these war criminal genocidal maniacs. It's that simple. Don't mince words. Call it out. Be clear. Moral clarity. And to see this freaking sicko, this disgusting piece of trash, last night, 12:30 a.m., posting, holy crap, I've never known a human being like him in my entire life. Well, I've never met a human being so freaking disgusting. Such a piece of trash, so harmful, such a cancer to the world, such a shit stain in the world. Excuse my, just the worst scumbag imaginable. Sorry, I get so angry when when I speak about the horrors and atrocities that these individuals and Trump has caused to so many people, the damaged people. Donald Trump is panicking as Iran has rejected Donald Trump's ceasefire request. Donald Trump sent Iraq's Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi to meet with Iran's President Pezeshkian and Foreign Minister. Trump was begging for a ceasefire. Iran said absolutely not. The New York Times is also confirming this. Iran on Thursday rejected a ceasefire proposal from Donald Trump that was carried to Tehran by the Iraqi Prime Minister, according to both Iranian and Iraqi officials. This has separately been confirmed by U.S. officials.
Patterns beyond the parties currently engaged. Let's connect this to the financial scale of what's actually being requested from Congress, because it has grown yet again since our last report on this exact figure. Defense Secretary Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Chairman Kaine are now seeking a $1.5 trillion total defense budget, including $70 billion specifically earmarked for the Iran war, up from the $67 billion we detailed just weeks ago, continuing the exact same escalating pattern we identified across 3 previous congressional appearances. It's worth putting that $1.5 trillion figure in real perspective, because the scale genuinely dwarfs nearly every other category of federal spending currently being debated. That request approaches the entire annual discretionary federal budget across most other government categories combined, meaning the Pentagon's own funding ask, even before isolating the specific $70 billion Iran allocation, has grown to a scale that overshadows virtually every other legislative priority. Congress is simultaneously trying to address this same session. Let me give you my full analysis of why this specific combination. A genuinely enormous entertainment industry solidarity gesture on one side, a rapidly escalating, multi-nation war on the other, deserves to be understood together rather than as 2 unrelated stories competing for the same news cycle. Kimmel handing his platform to Colbert, then to O'Donnell, represents a small but genuine act of institutional resistance. 2 private citizens, using whatever leverage they still have, to keep amplifying voices this administration has spent considerable energy trying to suppress. The Iran escalation represents the exact opposite dynamic at a vastly larger scale. An administration with functionally unlimited institutional power, using that power to expand a war whose costs keep growing every time an official is forced to
deal with them. We don't trust them. Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi says that Iran and the U.S. already had enough mediators. We don't need a new one in the Iraqi Prime Minister. The problem is not the passing of messages, says Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi. The problem is America's outlook, which is illogical, greedy, and controlling. 2 Iranian officials say Iran is preparing to expand the war significantly if Donald Trump strikes critical infrastructure. The United States indeed launched its 13th consecutive night of strikes this evening after Iran rejected Donald Trump begging for a ceasefire. The strikes were significant. However, it was not as big as the night before, which is interesting. A lot of people are saying that the U.S. is running out of munitions right now, that Donald Trump and Hegseth have handled this, or I should say mishandled this, so much that they don't even have the ability to escalate that much any further at this point. But there were some serious strikes. I don't want to downplay the severity of it. Let me share with you this attack on the Avaz area, which is Iran's main oil region. There was about 35 strikes in the past hour and a half. This just occurred. Avaz is the capital of the Khuzestan province, housing Iran's major oil production and refining infrastructure. And so I'll show you what went down when one of the innocent civilians there captured the following. Let's play it. This is what the air defense system looked like in western Tehran, which the Trump regime says they don't have any air defense system. Let me show you what it looks like as the U.S. was sending fighter jets over Iran. Let's play this clip. Notably, this footage has been circulating of a crashing and burning aerial object flowing from the sky over Keshem Island in southern Iran, with initial reports that Iran struck some sort of jet. It may be an MQ-9 Reaper. I'll show you the clip. Tell me if you recognize what this is. Let's play it. Now, this also comes at a time where dozens of United States Air Force cargo planes, C-17s, and other heavy lifts can be seen flying from European bases to the Middle East today. There's a full-scale air bridge reactivated right now, which hasn't been.
Can actually generate against genuinely overwhelming institutional force. Let me give you my prediction section now, clearly labeled. Prediction 1. Expect Colbert to eventually accept some version of Kimmel's guest hosting offer, likely once enough time has passed that the gesture reads as genuine creative collaboration rather than a hasty rebound from his own cancellation. Kimmel's explicit, open-ended, anytime framing suggests both men understand this as a matter of timing rather than a closed door. Prediction 2. Expect Rosie O'Donnell's August guest hosting week to generate its own significant news cycle, given her documented, sustained history of direct conflict with Trump. A full week of her material on network television during exactly the kind of high-visibility summer slot Kimmel has now handed her is likely to produce at least one genuinely viral, widely covered moment. Prediction 3, and this is the one that matters most. Expect the unprecedented massive attack warning to be followed within days by actual confirmed strikes, exceeding anything documented in this conflict so far, given the specific severity of that language combined with the war's already established pattern of continuous nightly escalation. It's worth zooming out one final time before we close, because this specific guest hosting story fits inside a much broader pattern of late-night solidarity we've documented extensively across this entire series. The Strikeforce 5 reunion bringing together Kimmel, Colbert, Fallon, Myers, and Oliver on Colbert's final broadcast. The over 400 entertainers who signed the ACLU open letter following Kimmel's suspension. Ben Stiller's real, documented public statements we detailed in an earlier report. And now this, a private, personal offer of an actual hosting chair extended twice in succession to two of this administration's most consistent targets. None of these individual gestures, on their own, changes federal policy or
been seen since the beginning of this catastrophic war. Should also be noted that on Thursday, the Defense Department is now deleting the killed in action and injured in action numbers from the website. We've been talking about this now, in our reports about 3 or 4 days ago. We said they're deleting the casualty numbers. I see them manipulating the casualty numbers on their web. I saw them deleting it. They were deleting it. So they downgraded the killed in action from 18 to 14, and they reduced the injured in action by 20 as well, because the Trump regime is saying that the recent deaths did not take place during Epic Fury, that Trump did a ceasefire, so Epic Fury ended, and that was a different war, and that this is something else right now. So they're deleting the killed in action numbers, and this follows Donald Trump at Dover, Delaware, where Donald Trump said that he lied, and which what else is new? But he said that the troops who were killed, that their final words before dying basically was that they didn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. I mean, how sick and disgusting for Donald Trump to just make stuff up about service members who got killed in action. Now, Iranian sources are also claiming that Iran destroyed U.S. HIMARS, those missiles that they shoot from the ground in northern Kuwait. You can see some footage right here as well. Iran currently is conducting strikes over Kuwait and Jordan. We know that's taking place as I am recording this. According to an exclusive report today from CBS, citing U.S. officials who spoke on a condition of anonymity, the rate at which the United States is expending some of its most advanced air defense interceptors and precision-guided weapons in the Middle East is a point of great tension inside the Trump regime. Dwindling stockpiles of defensive interceptors and long-range missiles, including stocks of the Army Tactical Missile System, the ATACMS, as they're called, have become a major pressure point for top military officials. And we're running out of munitions. The strategic reserves have hit tank bottom. Crude likely will hit $120, $150 a barrel pretty soon. It's already over $100 a barrel. Iran knows they've got the United States right where they want them. I mean, earlier today, MB Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament leader, was mocking Donald Trump, saying, 10 of 10 move, Donald. Right now, we're watching your gas prices surge. We're watching your interest rates rise. We're watching your markets crash. Well done, Donald. At the same time, Donald Trump asked the Iraqi prime minister to beg Iran for a deal. I mean, again, how pathetic is it that that's what Donald Trump is doing? Especially Donald Trump, they want to make a deal so badly. Trump posted the following recently. Please let this statement serve to represent, this is what he just posted. Please let this statement serve to represent until further notice that
reverses a single FCC decision. But taken together, across an entire year, they represent something genuinely rare in modern American media. An industry-wide refusal to let institutional pressure isolate any single target, choosing instead to keep passing the microphone from one person to the next. Here is the deeper truth connecting everything we've covered tonight. Jimmy Kimmel spent this entire past year building something considerably larger than a single television show's survival story. He built a small, deliberate network of solidarity, offering his platform first to the man whose own show was cancelled, then to the woman this president has spent nearly 2 decades trying to silence. While, on a global scale, a war keeps expanding its target list and its budget request every single time someone official is forced to account for it, honestly. Both stories are about the exact same underlying question. When institutional pressure mounts against you, do you fold, or do you find whoever else is standing next to you and hand them the microphone? Kimmel keeps choosing the second option. This week's Iran escalation suggests this administration has settled, just as consistently, on an entirely different answer. This is USA Press. If tonight's report gave you fresh material you hadn't seen laid out before, hit that like button right now. It costs you 1 second, and it puts this reporting in front of thousands more people who need to see how these stories actually fit together, especially given how quickly a genuine, ongoing act of solidarity like this can get lost once the actual news cycle moves on to the next headline. Subscribe to USA Press and turn on notifications, because between Colbert's next move, O'Donnell's August takeover, and whatever happens next in Iran, we are not going anywhere. Drop a comment and tell us, do you think Colbert will eventually take Kimmel up on that guest hosting offer? And does unprecedented massive attack strike you as a genuine military escalation, or more of the same rhetoric we've documented across this entire war? We want to hear where you land. Stay sharp, stay informed, and remember, real friendship, like real accountability, usually shows up in what someone's willing to hand you when they don't have to.